What's up, everybody? Doug here, and let me just go ahead and it's Friday, and the kids have gone back to their moms. So I'm cracking up. This is not a beer. I'm not drinking and driving. This is an energy drink. The white gummy bear rain, which is just an absolute top tier flavor. Uh, so I actually did a test run for this episode a week or two ago, but I didn't feel like I was doing it justice. I felt like I was kind of all over the place, and I just wanted to really dig into this topic because it's something that's very near and dear to me, and it's games as a service. Uh, it's kind of a negative word when used in the modern gaming space nowadays, and I mean, rightfully and unrightfully so, because some people just want a single player experience, and they don't want to have to be constantly logged in and having to play with other people, and I get that. But I'm I'm going to talk about my experience as with multiplayer games as a service. That kind of subgenre. Well, it's not really a subgenre, but it really started with Destiny, which was back in 2014. Destiny One. Uh, I had started playing Destiny One, but it just really wasn't what I wanted from a game at the time. But it placed the bug because before Destiny One, I had tried World of Warcraft multiple times, and it just never stuck. But after trying Destiny, I went back. At the time, I had it was a really crappy HP laptop, and I'd gotten it just for college, to take notes on and do my homework, stuff like that. And I think it didn't even have like a real. It didn't even have I think it might have had like an integrated graphics card, just something to barely get the job done. And I was looking around. I was like, what games can I run on this crappy HP laptop? And one of the things that came up was World of Warcraft, because I mean, even today, like by modern standards, a potato can still run World of Warcraft. And when I use the term "run" loosely because this HP laptop could, like, I had to turn all the settings down to very low, and like, I mean, even still, like, it was just barely playable. I think I was barely getting 30 frames, and I think what really made this particular run of World of Warcraft different for me was this is the third time, by the way. Uh, I had started a Worgen, which if you're not familiar with the term Worgen, it's basically a werewolf, and all of the other times that I had tried World of Warcraft, the starting zone was very bland. Like it's like, you're a night elf, go kill some things. And the Worgen starting zone was very different, where you started as a human character and you go through this starting quest line, which is the fall of Gilneas, and you go through you start as a human, and then you get turned into a Worgen, and it's basically it's a mini campaign that gets you started into the World of Warcraft ecosystem. And I just remember playing it and getting enthralled in the storyline. Well, not really enthralled in the storyline, but caught up in it. And I played every day before class. I was, every chance I got, I was starting up World of Warcraft on this trial account. And the trial account for World of Warcraft, I don't know what it is nowadays, but back then it was very strict. I know Final Fantasy 14 you can play up to level 70 for free, which I think level 70 you can play up to level 70 for free. But at the time, the trial for World of Warcraft was you got cut off at level 20. And let me get this here. I got right to level 20, and about the same time that I got to level 20, I had got my first tax return as a parent, and it was a substantial amount of money. And I asked my significant other at the time, I said, hey, can I just get one thing for me? Because she was getting she was getting one big purchase, and then I was like, can I just get one big purchase for myself? And she agreed. And what I ended up doing was I bought an Alienware laptop. It was something I'd always wanted but never had the ability to get. And I actually ended up getting a massive deal because the I bought it off of Best Buy, the Best Buy website, and the model that I bought was a 1060. It had the GTX 1060 in it, and it's actually really funny because I had bought it from Best Buy that was like an hour drive away, and I got sent to do a job that was like halfway between me and the Best Buy, and I just kind of said, "I said, hey, can I just come home late tonight and just drive the extra bit to get this laptop?" And she agreed. So I drove like it's like 7 8 p.m. I pull up, I get this laptop, I get it home, I turn it on, just to kind of I just wanted to get some games downloading overnight. And I noticed almost immediately that they'd given me the 1070 model, and it was just like this moment of I got away with something here. So almost immediately I purchased the full game. Uh, I got a subscription. I bought Legion, which is the expansion at the time, and I want to say that Legion was about halfway through its life cycle at that point. If you're not familiar, usually with games like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy, those are like the two main ones that I play. Games like Destiny and ESO are different because I'm pretty sure they have like an annual expansion that comes out. But how World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 are, the expansion comes out and then there are patches throughout like the next year or two where they just steadily add more content in. So like with Final Fantasy, that's the MMO that I'm playing the most now. They have like, for example, I don't know. I think Dawn Trail, which is an expansion that actually launched today in early access. Like it'll be like 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4 to 7.5, and every one of those those patches have a good chunk of story content added in that leads into the next expansion. So Legion at the time was about halfway through that cycle, and I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna catch up." So I'm just gonna take my time, and I got to about level 50 or level 60. Mm, all I remember is that I had got to the point where this was like again, this was before a lot of changes happened. So I had just gotten to Northrend. I was doing the Wrath of the Lich King content, and my friend was like, "Listen, the leveling system is kind of broken right now. You're gonna outlevel this content. You're not gonna finish it like you want to. Why don't you just get a level boost and come into Legion? You're not gonna miss a whole lot." That was a lie. Uh, just go ahead and come on over. So I did. I boosted the Legion, and I had an absolute field day with Legion. Legion was such an excellent expansion. It's an expansion that I think about to this day because what made Legion special was every class had an order hall, which basically, you had weapons where you could it encouraged you to play as the other specs. If you're not familiar with World of Warcraft, every class has different specifications in that class. So, for example, I was a hunter. You could be a Beastmaster hunter, which alters your playstyle to have a pet and have a lot of abilities with that pet and a lot of animal-based skills. And then there's like I think it's Survivalist Hunter, which is a melee class, and then it's just stuff like that where every specification it's the same class, but it just plays differently, and even sometimes, like in the case of a druid, you could your specification could be a healer spec, or you could be a tank or a DPS, all in the same class. So every like the Legion order halls, you know, would it really encourage you to play as the other specifications because it had weapons for each spec, and it was really special. And every order hall had a campaign with a unique storyline. It took you to cool locations. It was really awesome. And then not only that, but the campaign itself of Legion was just it was like I keep using the word awesome, but that's just what it was. Uh, So before we go any further, I'm about to be at my bank to deposit my check. So I'm going to pause the episode here and we're going to pick it up in a few minutes. All right, and we're back. Uh, so playing World of Warcraft Legion, it consumed me. That's a good word for it. Uh, I was playing almost every single day, even when I got to the end game, and I started to get into the patches that I was telling you about. It was, just not only playing those patches, but also having to grind out content to get these upgraded pieces of gear and to get better weapons to increase my item level so I could get into raiding, which I never really got too much into raids. I did a lot of the dungeons, not too many of the raids, and it was it was just a different time and doing the daily quests uh, to get those there was like reputations that you had to get to a certain level, and I think that was when the first allied races were kind of introduced, was in trying to rank up to get the Lightforged Draenei and the what was the other one? I think the Void Elves were one at the time. uh, but it was just like these cool new races that were just. I mean, when you get down dirt like into the nitty gritty, they were just reskins with different abilities, but they were cool reskins. Uh, they kind of got lazy with that, with the mechanomes. I just thought that. I mean, yeah, they're cool, but why don't you just make that something that you could customize on a regular gnome? Uh, but that's neither here nor there. And then I remember when Battle for Azeroth was announced, I went with the same friend that got me into the game. We were at a Buffalo Wild Wings just talking about all the things that could happen in this expansion coming up, and getting the Horde versus Alliance conflict back at the forefront. And I remember reading the novel when that came out, and then when Battle for Azeroth dropped, I was in when the gates opened. I was obsessed. Not only and here's the thing: Battle for Azeroth was not a well liked expansion, but it did something that I want seen again. I know that it would be difficult because it's a lot of work, but Battle for Azeroth had two different campaigns depending on who you were. If you were a Horde character or if you were an Alliance character, you had a different experience, a wholly different experience, I might add. And Blizzard heavily favored the Horde and Battle for Azeroth. Like they had a much better storyline. Much to the, I'm pretty sure that for the first raid, you had no context for why you were there. You were just in this raid. There was no I don't think there was a quest line leading into it, like the Horde had. Uh, it was just, they're like, hey, this raid's open. There's no story relevance for you here, but here you go. And like the post content where it was just leading more into this battle, and it was good. I know a lot of people didn't like Battle for Azeroth. I loved Battle for Azeroth, and I think that it's kind of the thing where a lot of people's favorite Persona game is whatever one they played first. I think Battle for Azeroth is one of my favorite expansions because it was the expansion that it was the first World of Warcraft expansion that I bought for launch day, and I was in when the doors opened. And you know, Battle for Azeroth famously had a horrible ending because of COVID. Like they had I forget what the name of the first expansion was, but then the second one you go down under like to this cool underwater. Well, it's not even underwater. Like they pulled the waters out, so it was like this. You're on the ocean floor with like the ocean like held back all the way around you. It was just a cool place to be with new activities and new daily quests to grind out, and then you get to it was I think it was it maybe 6.3 was I think the name of the patch, and you're fighting N'Zoth, which is a god. I think it's a god. I think N'Zoth was a god, and it just there was nothing to do other than like grind the quest to grind. Like there was a very short quest line, and people chalk that up to COVID and not having the people to work on it. but I would have honestly just rather them take longer instead of just staying on that grind like they did. And I even want to say that not only did they put it out in a half baked state, I'm pretty sure that it was also delayed multiple times, and that those delays carried over because Shadowlands was delayed once or twice as well. And I remember at the same time there were like whenever there were showings for Shadowlands, like I was always very excited for it. The BlizzCon, I remember I had stayed home from work for some reason that day. It wasn't to watch BlizzCon, I know that, but I had stayed home from work, and my significant other and my son had gone on some kind of trip that I couldn't go on, and I don't remember why I couldn't go on it, but I stayed home and I watched BlizzCon, and like they announced Shadowlands. They they showed the CGI trailer for it, and they did a deep dive on what the expansion was going to be. And I went, I opened my laptop and I bought it. Like there was the only expansion that I it was the only game bar none that as soon as it was announced I pre-ordered it. I'd never done that before, but I did it for this one. And between that there was like a year between that and when Shadowlands actually released. And, in between that, we had COVID, we had Hurricane Laura, which just completely destroyed the the city that I worked in and the city that I lived in. And I think that, and to add on to all of that, I was going through a divorce. And it was just three things that kind of just beat me down. And I kind of just, whenever Shadowlands came out, I played it, but I was not playing it with the same fervor that I was playing Legion and Battle for Azeroth. And what made it even worse were the fact that the dungeons were not tied into the main quest line anymore. They were all tied into side quests. So if you weren't looking for these side quests and paying attention, you would just completely miss all of the dungeons. And at the like Shadowlands had this idea of covenants, which were you would beat the main campaign, and then you would pick a covenant. Shadowlands had four of them, and they were billed as these four major post game things. And in a perfect world, you would want to go through and play all four of them. But like when you got down to it, it just wasn't worth it. And it was even to the point where it was. I don't want to say that Blizzard lied because I don't think they lied. They just made it seem as to something that it did not end up being. There's an absolute jerk that wouldn't let me over. Sorry. Uh, so the whole concept was after you beat the game the first time, you were supposed to be able to skip straight, like you like start an alt and skip straight into the covenant. That's the word I was looking for. The Covenant's campaign, and you weren't able to do that. Actually, you were able to pick your Covenant as an alt, and then your option was, hey, now you have to grind out until you get to level one, like the level cap at the time, which was 120, I think. No, that was okay. So that was when they did the level squish. So you can grind and do world quests until you get to the level cap. Then we'll let you do the Aura campaign. So it was just Shadowlands was a good expansion. Don't get me wrong, but it was not what we expected it to be, and it ended up falling flat really quickly. And I just remember not even caring about the raids for Shadowlands. I don't think I did a single one of them. I think I just watched the videos. Even the raid where you fight Sylvanas, who was the big bad guy that they had been teasing for so long, like not necessarily teasing, but they had set this person up to be a bad character, and then the jailer, which was such a cool villain. It was like the World of Warcraft's Thanos. Uh, I just did not care because of the way that they set everything up. And when Dragonflight came out, uh, it was even worse. Like, I mean, they had the Dractyr Evoker, which was a cool race class combo, but there just didn't feel like. I mean, yeah, there were dragons, cool. Dragon riding was an insanely cool concept, but it just wasn't like Legion and BFA and Shadowlands, they had stakes. Like in Legion, you're fighting the burning Legion. You know, this army of demons is invite like you're fighting them off. And Battle for Azeroth, you were in the middle of the I think it's the Fourth Great War. And then Shadowlands, you're literally in the afterlife trying to fight the the biggest bad that you could face right now. And then in Dragonflight, you're just like, oh yeah, there's dragons, and that's all it was. And then the main campaign didn't even get you to the level cap. If you just played the campaign, you would not get to the level cap, which is bonkers to me. And it really it killed it killed my momentum for the game. And what ended up happening was I rolled a Dractyr Evoker for my main for Dragonflight, and when I did not get to the level cap, I just backed out and I want to say I let a year go by where I just did not play the game. And I came back with my Worgen Hunter. I went through the entire Dragonflight campaign, doing the side quest that led to the dungeons. Uh, and I was able to get to level cap. And then I went through. I did all the post game content that there was there. Excuse me. And now we are at the War Within, which it looks like it's getting back to those campaigns with stakes. It's they compared this to a trilogy of expansions where they are going to hopefully have this campaign with stakes in it. And I don't know how long these. I mean, because they announced this as the World Soul Saga, I think is what it's called. It's 3 expansions. The War Within is the first one. It either comes out in August or September. September sounds right though, and I'm hoping that this is a return to form, and I'm hoping that this is going to get me back into World of Warcraft. But you're going to see the issues that I have with World of Warcraft was compounded whenever I got into another MMO, which was Final Fantasy 14. And while I lost interest in World of Warcraft, I never lost interest in Final Fantasy 14 because all the issues that I have about World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14 had an answer for those. And I actually started playing Final Fantasy 14. You know what? Final Fantasy 14, now I think about it, might have been like the nail in the coffin for while World of Warcraft started to lose its shine for me. It was, I want to say around 2017, 2018 when I started playing Final Fantasy 14. And it's a game with better graphics. Like World of Warcraft stylistically is a better looking game. But when you talk about just rubber meets the road graphical fidelity, Final Fantasy 14 was just a better looking game. Not only was it better looking, it was on consoles. So while I had a nice, like a really good, powerful laptop, I was able to also just sit down at my couch and play Final Fantasy 14 on my PS4 with a controller. And now even more people on like not only is it on PlayStation 4, it's also got a PS5 version, and it just made the jump to Xbox. And you can almost play this game anywhere. And even if I wanted to sit at my desk and play on PC, there was the controller support there with a controller supported UI. World of Warcraft had those uh, it, quote unquote controller support was added, but they don't have a controller UI, which is absolutely ridiculous. I do not understand why they would say that they you could play World of Warcraft with a controller, but they don't have the UI to support that. And like the best way to play World of Warcraft is through a third party mod. Would like I just don't understand their reasoning there. Uh, Maybe Xbox will fix that now that they have acquired them. Uh, so yeah, so I started playing Final Fantasy 14. I beat A Realm Reborn, which is the base game, and I was starting Heavensward, the first expansion, when I had a different friend, not the same friend from World of Warcraft, say, "Hey, Shadowbringers is really good. Why don't you come boost to Shadowbringers? That way you can beat Shadowbringers and get to the new content, so we could play that together." And unlike World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14, what you can do is you can do a new game plus run where you can go back and pick previous expansions and play them in a easier way. And like I'm pretty sure New Game Plus you keep your level. So like like by the time I went back to Heaven's Word, I was max level, which at the time was level 80. Yeah, level 80, and I was just breezing through the content and getting to enjoy the story. Also, being able to fly, that was a big plus. And I did that. I skipped Shadowbringers. Absolutely blew everything that I expected from an MMO out of the water. Uh, the storyline was great. The areas they introduced in Shadowbringers, fantastic. Just everything that I could want from an RPG, especially an online RPG. And then they took it a step further. You don't want to play. You don't want to queue up for dungeons and play with randoms. You don't have to do that anymore. We're gonna make it to where at the time it was just Shadowbringers, but they eventually added it into every dungeon, and I think maybe just every dungeon and maybe every trial. I don't think you can do this with raids. Like it's only dungeons and trials. Uh, but yeah, you can queue up with some NPCs and run it that way. You're gonna be slower for sure, but you have that option to play the content in that way. And like just the memory of Shadowbringers. We're actually Emily and I are playing through the game. This is our first time ever playing the game, and I started a new character, and we're almost through with Stormblood. And the excitement that I have to play Shadowbringers for a second time is just beyond me. I'm just incredibly excited to play this expansion. Not to mention playing Endwalker again, and then experiencing Dawntrail together for the first time is going to be just a completely cool and different experience. Uh, so I get through Shadowbringers, right? We're playing all this content together with my friend. This is back in 2018-19 when it comes out. 2021, I think, is when Endwalker comes. It's either 2021 or 2023, but 2021 sounds right. Uh, Endwalker comes out and breaks the internet, pretty much. The queues, just the expansion was so popular that the it took like a 30 minute to 1 hour wait period just to get into the game. Sorry, let me get a drink. Got an itchy throat. You got the Reaper class, which is just I say menace in the best way. It was so fun to play. It was cool to look at. You had a big scythe for your weapon. Your armor is cool. Everything about this class is just awesome. And then moving further, the storyline is incredible and top tier RPG storyline, not just in the MMO space. I'm talking about top tier storyline, period. And going into the post game content where you get a, a, a main villain from Final Fantasy IV. Just, and that's another thing. Final Fantasy 14, it's standalone, but it takes characters like there's a quest line from Final Fantasy Tactics in this game. There's Final Fantasy 3 characters in this game. They do events where characters from Final Fantasy 15 and 16 are in the game. They just have such an irreverence for the Final Fantasy IP that is just you don't see it anywhere else, and it's incredible. You get to Endwalker, there are moments that make me cry. I mean, where do you get that in other MMOs? I can tell you one thing. ESO is fun. I have never been emotionally invested in the storyline. Like it's just Elder Scrolls Online is just a thing where you play it to have something to do almost. Uh, and then, I mean, all these things, and then going back and playing the new game, not the new game plus, but Heaven's Word for the second time, and this time playing it as it was intended, where I was leveling with the game, playing the content as you're supposed to play it. And then there were some dungeons in Heaven's Word that were reworked. Not dungeons. There was a trial that was reworked where there's a final boss fight that is absolutely bonkers. And there was the group that we were in were just like, look, we're gonna keep running this until we either run out of time or we get it. And just all of that, and then playing through Stormblood for the very first time because I never went back and played Stormblood all the way through. Like I got through like the first handful of quests in the new game plus, and then for some reason I stopped. And playing through Stormblood the first time, it is not the best expansion. It's pretty. I would say it's pretty bad. Uh, when you talk to people, they'll either say it's their favorite expansion or their least favorite expansion. But I mean, it's just an experience, and I encourage everybody to play it. And the what separates World of Warcraft from Final Fantasy XIV is the fact that there's so many quality of life issues in World of Warcraft that are answered here. Uh, there's literally no reason to ever start an alt unless you want to just have that role playing experience because you can play as any class in the game without switching characters. You just switch out your equipment pretty much, and you go to a different job. So if you are playing as a samurai like I am, and you see another class that's more fun, all you got to do is you got to go do the quest line, and you get the items that you need. You switch classes. It's that simple. And while there are some classes that you have to start from level one, uh, there are other classes that you can like you can start at certain levels. Like for example, I started out as a rogue, and I upgraded to ninja level 30, and then whenever we got to level 50, I switched over to samurai. And when we get to level 80 and start off with Endwalker content, I'm switching over to Viper, which is the new Dawntrail class. And it's stuff like that. And the gathering and crafting professions, they all feel like you're not wasting your time. They feel like they're always giving you a carrot on a stick where you're I can throw on a podcast and fish or mine or gather things, and then you know going to taking those items and then making them in the crafting classes into something else that I can turn around and sell back into the economy. It's something that is completely unparalleled in World of Warcraft. I would say that if you weren't grandfathered in, you're probably not doing any professions in World of Warcraft, because I can tell you one thing: I was not grandfathered in. They do not do a good job of explaining what you're supposed to do in your professions at all in World of Warcraft, or at least they didn't last I checked. And Final Fantasy 14, they're like, hey, you got to do this. And if you ever have any doubts of what you're supposed to be doing, here is a very detailed guide of what you need to do. And every profession is its own class. So when you're doing some mining, you are a miner with miner gear and a pickaxe as your quote unquote weapon. And that's what you're doing. You're in an area, you're mining things out. It's cathartic. It's great. And all of these things just meld into what a great experience Final Fantasy 14 is. And what I really want to do is maybe when Emily and I finish Dawntrail, when we put the credits into that, I want to sit her down and have a detailed podcast about her feelings because I think that would be a good time. Uh, so that's the end of Final Fantasy 14. And now this is a game that I never thought I would be into a games as a service shooter. But what really opened the door for it was Destiny 2 and Fortnite. Uh, when Destiny 2 first launched in 2017, I believe, uh, it was more of a game for me than Destiny 1 was because it had a campaign. And it wasn't like a campaign where, you would load in and be like, hey, go kill 5 things and come back and talk to me. I'll give you like a little bit of story. And then you're going to go kill 5 more things. No, what it was it was a deal where you would go out and you would do a normal first person shooter campaign where you were always progressing the storyline. And that kind of gets lost in the weeds. Even in Final Fantasy 14 and World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy is more of a, hey, go here, talk to them. Okay, you talk to them, go talk to them. Okay, you talk to them, now go back to where you started the quest from. Like, stuff like that. Uh, but the Destiny 2 campaign was never about that. And so far, it still isn't about that because, I played the campaign, I fell off, I came back for Forsaken, and I got about halfway through, maybe a little further than halfway through Forsaken, and then the Beyond Light, which was the new initiative for Destiny 2 at the time where they made the game free to play. And whenever that server, whenever that transition happened, the server wiped my progress for Forsaken and I bounced and I never went back. And now I regret that heavily because unfortunately now I can never play that content, which is so disappointing because it was such a good campaign. Uh, I recently started Destiny 2 again, and you can't play the campaign anymore. You can't play Forsaken. So I did the Beyond Light campaign. It was a lot of fun, and I'm actually a little bit into the Witch Queen, which is the next expansion after that. And from there, I also have the Lightfall campaign, and then Final Shape, which people weren't too high on Lightfall. People are very high on the Final Shape, so I'm really excited to play that. Uh, but then you get to Fortnite, which is it's a completely different beast. It's this game where you there it started out as this game where you're fighting off zombies. Epic Games was making it. It was like one of their first big games after Gears of War. When it launched, it was nothing. And, you know, then it saw the success from another game, PUBG. It was the first Battle Royale. And then they took that Battle Royale mode, and then all of a sudden, the popularity of Fortnite went through the roof. And then they started adding in skins of like popular characters. And what it really took off and what got me through the door was the Marvel. They did a season where it was just Marvel stuff. The battle pass had Marvel skins in it. Uh, there were Marvel, like the Stark Industries was in the map. They had a Sentinel graveyard, just stuff like that. And then not to mention the battle pass, which even in modern Fortnite is this carrot on a stick that keeps you playing so that you can unlock more weapon wraps, gliders, skins. I mean, it's this constant feedback that you're constantly unlocking something. And not even to mention from there, modern Fortnite isn't even just Fortnite anymore. They have added in, there are so many community made modes where people have made their own maps. They've made their own game types where you can play any kind of, like there's these modes where you can play Fortnite in first person. There's these horror maps. There's 1v1 maps. Just absolute off the wall stuff. But not even counting that, you've got Fortnite Festival, which it's Guitar Hero in Fortnite. It is a fully fleshed out mode where you can play guitar, bass, you can play drums, you can do vocals. It's not real vocals. It's closer to like Amplitude or Rock Band Unplugged. And they've got Fortnite Festival main stage. They've got Fortnite Festival jam stage where you just go with other players and you can make these fun little loops where one person will be playing drums for one song, and somebody else can come in and do the vocals for it, and you can change the tempo, the key, and it's just like this experience where you can just have fun, just messing with the settings to make these really cool musical creations with other players. And going into there's battle stage where it's this mode where you're playing to see who's the best, and you're getting these attack moves to kind of trip up other players, and the game slowly cuts people out, and it becomes this like survival of the fittest. Going even further, you've got a festival pass where you can unlock skins for whoever, like this season 4 of like I mean, there's been The Weeknd, there's been Lady Gaga, Billie Eilish. Now there's Metallica, where you're unlocking Metallica skins. You're unlocking their instruments to play in the game mode. Going even further than that, you have. Hold on, somebody's trying to call me. I don't know that number, so I'm not going to answer it. Going even further than that, you have Lego Fortnite, which is a completely different survival mode where you're going through, you're gathering resources, you're building things. It's like Minecraft in Fortnite, and there's a Lego pass for that from the Star Wars event from May, where as you build things and do quests, you're unlocking Star Wars themed things that you can build. Um, And going even further than that, you have Rocket Racing, which is basically Rocket League styled cars in Fortnite doing these absolutely insane racetracks. The Metallica themed racetrack they have right now is insane. And all of these things are in a free to play package where you can pay for things that you want or not pay for them. They're all cosmetic, but they are so cool, and they make you want to buy them. That's the thing. And like they have so many collabs where like if I go into my skins, I've got skins from Dragon Ball Z. I've got skins from Marvel IP. I've got the guy from Elder Scrolls Online, like the box art guy. Uh, Invincible. I've got Invincible skins. I've got Avatar skins. I've got the power armor from Fallout. It is just an experience that is it's as close. I'll tell you what. The best way I can describe it. This is as close as we will ever get to Ready Player One, because in any mode, I can see Iron Man getting killed by Naruto, or I can see Kratos and Master Chief going at it, and it's just an experience that is unmatched. And all of these experiences that I've talked about, from Fortnite to Destiny, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, the reason that these games as a service are something that melds with me is because even when I'm going through a phase where I don't know what I want to play, I can jump into any one of these games and feel like, okay, this is a home base. This is a ground point where I can jump into Final Fantasy 14 and grab a fishing pole and go fishing, or level another class, or I can go into Fortnite and play a mode that I might not have played before. And it's just something that is always going to be a holistic thing for me. And to the point where I'm looking into new games as a service options. Like I just downloaded Warzone because they have a Fallout collab that I'm kind of excited about. And I kind of want to dive into the world of Call of Duty because Call of Duty is in one hub now. So every Call of Duty that you download gets put into that hub. And all of these things are, it's this feeling of connection. And Halo Infinite, I started playing that multiplayer last night. And I guess what I'm saying in all of this is I am in my multiplayer era, I think. I didn't think I was ever going to be in my multiplayer era. I thought I was going to be a forever single player guy. But that is just something that's changing as I go on. And I think that's a good place to stop for this episode. Uh, Feel free to to message me on any one of our social medias to figure out what your favorite games and services right now. And maybe if you play any of the games that I was talking about, we can not hook up. That sounds wrong, but we can set up something that we can play together. Uh, anyway, guys, thanks for listening. This was a really fun episode for me to make, and I hope it was fun for you to listen to. I'll see you next time.